You're listening to the Current Plays Podcast, Season 3, Episode 11, Tales of the Arthurian Knights. And now please welcome your hosts, Jordan and Thomas. And welcome back, mythical listeners. Today, Episode 11, we are talking about Tales of the Arthurian Knights. This is published by WizKids and designed by Eric Goldberg and Andrew Parks. And I got the publisher right this week. um, uh, yeah, so this is a game that actually re-implements Tales of the Arabian Nights, which is an old game that's seen a few different a few different, not publication, but yeah, publications. What am I looking for here? It's been updated a number of times, and this basically re-implements it.
There we
Yeah,
go.
there you go. Which is a narrative storytelling game.
Hmm.
Um, in we'll probably compare the two like quite a bit during this episode.
Yeah, yeah.
But I'll go over Tales of the Arthurian Knights, and you can jump in with some Arabian Nights stuff because you've played that one a few more times than I have. But
Yep.
in Tales of the Arthurian Knights, this one is obviously a King Arthur themed game. Like I said, a narrative game in which you're going to take on the roles of the Knights of the Round Table, and you're going to go out and adventure across Europe, specifically Britain, in Arthurian times, whenever those were,
Yeah,
the
yeah, that's
times of
fair
legend,
enough. Yeah.
across the three ages of Camelot, basically. So the Golden Age of Camelot and the other two. There's the quest for the Holy Grail, I think, is the second one, and then the third one is like the War of Mordred and
Yeah. Yeah,
um,
yeah.
yeah. Uh, Mechanically, you're going to be moving across the board, and there's various landscape positions that'll. So there's spots for swamps, forests, mountains, cities,
Planes. Yeah.
plains, and those spots will have numbers on them. You'll move to those spots, and you're going to flip an encounter, and that encounter can be one of a few different types. So there's like a, I don't know what you would call it, person or creature encounters, where let's say it's well, the first one I got yesterday was a queen. Okay, so you flip it over. Okay, I find a queen,
Yeah.
and then you'll flip this feature card, and it'll have a descriptor. And this one was mad, so it was a mad queen. I'm like, okay, this is starting out well.
First turn of the game.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah.
But that combination, the feature mad and then the queen gives you a paragraph that you'd go to in the storybook. And the storybook, by the way, just to interrupt the description, is gorgeous.
It is.
It's
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
big, chunky, and it's got like this fake leather cover on it that just feels really nice and looks really nice. It's
It
really good.
it looks like some sort of like mythical tome that you would find, yeah,
Yeah,
legends and kind of thing, right? So
for
for sure.
sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, So then you're gonna hand off the book to, whoever else you're playing with, or there's actually a solo mode that plays really well, but you're gonna read a passage, and that passage is gonna give you a story about the Mad Queen or whatever. And then it's gonna give you two to three options to say how do you want to handle this? And based on which option you take, then you're going to go to another paragraph in that book, and it's going to say, okay, you can use, let's say, your magic skill to try and dispel this spell on this Mad Queen, or you can use sword and shield to run her through, and put an end to her tyranny kind of thing.
Yeah,
And then you choose which path you want to take and you roll a die. And if you have those skills, you can add those skills to the roll. And there's I'm going to call it a difficulty class, but it'll have a number that, you have to meet in order to, meet or beat to succeed. And if you succeed, you read a certain paragraph and you get a reward. And if you fail, you read a different paragraph and it usually gives you something else. Usually, like if you try to use a certain skill and you fail at that roll, it'll actually bump that skill up for you. And then can sometimes give you some other things, give you conditions, like maybe you go crazy, or
yeah, yeah,
you
yeah,
you lose your horse, or you can fall in love and become married, and there's
yeah.
all kinds of stuff. So they all sort of follow that general pattern. That's the creature encounters. There's also location encounters. So one of them, like I found a perilous cave, and those are going to match up with the age of the quest and the landscape that you're on. So those ones will change depending on what stage of the game you're in, which is kind of cool. But again, it's gonna have a two digit number on it. You're gonna match that with the card that represents the age that you're currently in. Find the paragraph, go to that in the book, and it's the same sort of thing. The final type of encounter is the I think they call them places of power. So there's some special places along the map, places like Avalon, the Underwater Palace, the Merlin's Cave, like special places out of Arthurian legend. And if you get one of these, you're just gonna keep it with you. And then if you make it to that space on the map, then you're gonna have a special encounter there. The last part of this is that you're going to get quests to sort of guide, how you're going to move around the board. And as you get those quests, you have to go to certain spots and complete the quest. Again, it's just going to be like a die roll. But these ones, the starter quests have you do the encounters just like normal. But then after the starter quests, the quests are typically special quests, which are basically written out on the card itself. But that's it. You go around and you have a big adventure, and if you're like us, you role play your character, you play it very
Yeah.
narrative heavy, you get right into the stories and make silly voices when you tell them, and yeah, just generally have a great time.
We had a like it was a ball playing this. Like it was fantastic. I we laughed so hard so many times
Yep.
throughout like I'm talking like complete red face laughing because we were like couldn't catch our breath just because there was so many like little funny things that were happening. Like these games are not games that you're going to play to be like have like that crunchy Euro sort of strategic tactical play, whatever. It's not that. These are not those games, right? These ones are it's a narrative heavy, let's see sort of what happens. And in the past, like
Yeah.
I've tried to play Tales of the Arabian Nights somewhat competitively, pretty competitively, right? Because when I play games, I like to win. I like to try my hardest to win the game, right? And these ones are just you can try, but nothing you do is really going to really lead to your winning. It's very, especially because there's die rolling and stuff like that, and that often determines whether you pass or fail. It's really up in the air on how things might go. And then, seemingly you pass something and maybe you pass it in a way that, for example, in our game, I I wanted to play a villain. So like every choice I made was really aimed at doing that. So I came across this. Jester, who was, I think it was maybe just fool, but like a kind fool. I can't remember what
Yeah,
the
he.
descriptive word was.
Yeah, I can't remember
Yeah,
either.
but I ran into him on the road and he was pretending to be like a noble, and I obviously could tell it was not a noble. And it was like you could play along with his story or you could rob him. And I was like, yeah, I'd rob him, right? 'Cause of course I do, right? So it goes into this, bit of a talk, and then you get to roll for. You could choose to. I can't remember. It was like cunning or like the skills wise, cunning or sword and shield. So I picked sword and shield because I was that was my highest stat. And then you roll the die and you try and beat that difficulty class, right? I rolled really poorly, but I had a high enough skill level in there that I still passed. So I robbed him, and it gives you like a chance right at the end. Okay, it's okay, you rob him, or you can try and be honorable and not rob him. And I was like,
Yeah.
mm-mm, I robbed him. Right? So I completed it, and I was successful in the die roll, and then I got essentially nothing. Right? I think I got one destiny point, and it was just like a total kind of waste.
Yeah.
Uh, so like you could do those sort of things, right? And then it leads to really nothing. And then versus, you do a different path, and then all of a sudden you got three destiny points, and maybe you picked up a treasure or something just for choosing different narratives. But I think what's important in these games is really, and we both were doing this, would go, okay, this would be the strategic choice here. Like this would likely lead, and you can't tell, but likely this would lead to some more points, right? Had I chosen the honorable path, maybe it led to some more points. But I was like, and we both did this. We're going, this is the so we've created these characters. We're role playing these characters almost. No, we're gonna stick with what the character would do. So yeah, no,
Yeah.
I rob him for sure, right? And whatever. So we stayed true to the characters, and I think that's the more fun way to do that. And I think where it really comes into play in Tales of the Arabian Nights, the map is set up very similar. But when you get these quests, it's like many of the mechanics are the same in this game, but the quests will come up and oftentimes it'll have your opponent place the markers for the quest. So it causes,
Yeah.
your opponent gets a choice of how far you basically have to travel for these quests. In the past, when I've played these, I'll put them as far as possible away. So it takes forever to get there. So it's less likely to complete those quests because usually when you complete the quest, you get a decent amount of good stuff. Assuming you can pass it, and even if you fail it, there's still some usual like bumps up somehow, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, completing the quest usually lead to points that end up, victory points at the end. In this game, I was like, you know what? I could do that, but it's more fun if we get to like hear what your story is. What's going to happen when you do this? So it was never, I always tried to put them on a path that was like, okay, we had these like main quests we were trying to do, and then also our personal quest. So it's like, okay, I'll put it on the path to the main quest just to incentivize you to, yeah, you're heading that way anyways. Hit up one of your quests on the way to the main quest kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
And then that way I got to hear your turn because I found too, especially in this last game, because we included these main quests that we haven't played with before. They were a little anticlimactic for like if you took your turn. Yeah, if you passed, you got decent stuff as far as like, victory points and maybe a treasure or something if they were completed kind of thing, right? Which was great, cool. But you didn't get any like story passage or anything like that,
Yeah.
right? So there was no like real quest progression. If you failed it, that was that much more punishing because then you'd get a bump on the die for the next time you would attempted to do it. So you'd likely pass the second time you tried, but that's two turns now you spent, trying to complete this. That's not giving you any story, right? Whereas if you just took a random action in a like a in a regular space without any story thing, you would get, or without the main quest, you would get some sort of story encounter, and they could be small, they could be large. Like it's pretty random what comes up,
Yeah.
from a story perspective, right?
And
Uh,
in this game, there's only 12 rounds. So you get 12 turns and that's
yeah,
it. And that's if you play the full game. So
yeah,
each
yeah,
age is 4 rounds, right? So what Thomas is talking about is there's a an optional module called the Grand Quests. And the Grand Quests, there's one for every age, and there's unless you're playing 4 players, there's like a number of players plus one quest spots. And so there's no way one person can do it all. So it's meant to be that, everyone contributes to the quest. And then if you finish all the spots, then everybody who contributed gets a bonus. Well, it was very cool and you know, I think it added a bit to
yeah,
it, but like you said, at the last age of the game, I had it lined up where I could hit like every single one and get a ton of points because with the Grand Quest, it was like every time you complete one of these is going to be 4 destiny points. It's like, well, that's a lot.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
more than most of the narrative stories give you, but then you don't get any narrative stories. And I did one quest. I did one, and like you said, I rolled and I failed, and it's like, well, that's my turn. That's one of my 4 remaining turns for this game.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
and then the next one, I rolled and I passed, and I'm like, okay, great. That's my second of 4 remaining turns
yeah.
this game. Like it wasn't as fun, so I abandoned those and went to Merlin's cave.
I gotta say, those are it's kind of a weird addition to the game. Now, in the sense, and it's the same with the way Tales of the Arabian Nights is set up, is they have these things implemented, in this case, these grand um quests that give you like heavy destiny points. So you're right. Yeah, had you done that, gone down it, like our by the end of the game, you won by what, 1 point, I think it was, right?
Yes,
When it
yeah.
comes down to it. So yeah, you're gonna have a winner of the game. Had you done what you said, it would have been like a 12-point difference or something silly like that, right? Like it would have been a big point a gap there, but less stories. So it's a weird with the type of game, like the narrative sort of game this is, to add in things that are more towards like scoring points, just for scoring points. It's a weird addition. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
What I'm trying to say here. So like same with like Arabian Nights here. Um, there's no turn counter in this, right? So in Arabian Nights, you just go until someone has reached their specific combination of destiny and story points, and then they announce that they've met that after going back to Baghdad, is where this one takes place, right? So the main city is Baghdad, whereas in this one it's Camelot in Tales of the Arthurian Knights. Nice, yeah. Um, the double knights is throwing me off. Is it Tales of the Arthurian
Tales of
Knights?
the Arthurian Knights.
Yeah,
Yep,
okay,
yep.
yeah. I was like knights, but then is it night? Yeah. I confused myself.
Arabian Nights is
It's knights. Yeah,
Nights.
yeah,
Arthurian Nights is Knights.
yeah. Right. Yeah, that just saying it out loud, I was like, wait a minute. Uh, yeah, so that aspect, because it goes on like that, with the story points and the destiny points separation in Arabian Nights, like that is like almost like a gaming thing, because you're trying to set those quests farther for your opponents so that you can speed get your quests done to score the right points, and then get to Baghdad and finish the game and whatever, right? So
Right.
it adds that aspect of, yeah, ultimately you're trying to get victory points to win the game. But it's not how I feel like it's not how these games should be played.
Yeah.
These games are the best part of last night was the crazy, stories that we were going through. Like my first mission, I grabbed mounted as one of my skills that I had, and I was so excited to use it. And I was thinking, okay, I'm going to be a villain. And I came across this giant, and he was crying, or he was sighing. Right? Because, this other giant had challenged him to a duel, and, his reputation was on the line, but he had promised his wife that he wouldn't fight anymore. And so he was really, and it gave you two options. I could convince him to ignore what his wife was saying, or I can, figure out a path past it. And I thought, at first you thought, oh, you're going to be the villain, so you're obviously going to convince him to go. But no, I was like, no, because I want to be his champion, because I want to do some like fighting or whatever, right? I want to use my
Right.
mounted, because I
Yeah.
had mounted and I had sword and shield, which are two martial skills. So I was like, it's going to be one of those, right? And sure enough, there was a mounted option. So I was like, I rode my horse in, and I rolled the dice, and I rolled like a one. And
Yeah.
I was like, oh, yeah, that's good. Right on the tail end of your turn, where you rolled a six on your roll and like got all this cool stuff
Yeah.
and like
Yeah.
completed your thing, and I rolled this one. So I like ride in, I challenge this giant. He comes out of his cave, and I'm doing really good, and I'm swinging, and he knocks me off my horse, and I like stab him in the leg, and he picks up my horse, and he bites the head off my horse. I was like, no! And then he picks me up, and he's squeezing me to death, and I'm like,
Yeah.
did I honestly just die on the first turn? But sure enough, the giant comes and he saves me,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Yeah. But
that's
oh
this.
man, like you rolled the one. I'm already laughing my butt off, right?
Oh,
And then and then the story just it gets so ridiculous and the giant like picks up your horse and I couldn't even finish the sentence because I'm just dying of
yeah.
laughter, which then you're dying of laughter, and then I'm struggling through telling this story.
I was so excited to be the mounted horse, and then right away to get to use the mounted ability, and then
Yeah.
my horse gets its head bitten off. Like such a wild, like what is happening kind of thing, right? And then and
And
then
then you become unhorsed.
and then I become on horse. So this game is great because you have this deck of cards that are essentially um,
Conditions.
conditions. Thank you. Yeah, they're conditions. So the condition I get was on horse because clearly I'm this mounted knight that no longer has a horse. So these conditions last for varying amounts of turns, or usually have some sort of way of getting rid of them.
Yeah.
Mine for unhorsed, the first time you go to a city, you can get rid of it at the end of the turn. So I'm
Just buy a
buying a
new
new
horse.
horse, right?
Yep.
But I
Yep.
have to get to a city to do that, right? So yeah, it was just this is a combination. I'm so excited. Yes, I get to do the mountain. No, I rolled a one. No, my horse gets eaten, and now I'm gonna die. And oh, it was so much.
Uh,
Yeah, it was great. But like, what an epic start to the game. Because like even your quest, like you started
yeah.
off with a like you said the Mad Queen,
I got
right?
the Mad Queen, and then it was a huge story too.
Yeah, yeah.
You were reading for a long time. And it just kept building and like these villagers are fleeing. This queen like tried to basically cast a love spell on this knight that she fancied and it rebounded and now she's gone crazy and she's murdering everybody. And, and I love it. And you're like, your options are like dispel the spell or murder her basically. And I'm like, there's no option to just run away. Like you're like, nope. Okay, I guess we're doing this.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it like because one thing I do like about this game a lot over Arabian Nights, I think is a big improvement. One is that the consequences of your choices make a lot more sense.
Yes, yeah.
And you can sort of predict a little more what might, like you were like, okay, oh, I'm going to fight a giant. I'm probably going to need a martial skill. right? And sure enough, yeah,
Yeah.
like that was an option. Um, and yeah, in this one, it was like, do you try to dispel the spell? And I'm like, well, I'm probably gonna need magic for that, which is a skill that I had. So, um, and then yeah, like you can sort of tell from the narrative, is this gonna be a difficult role or, or
Yes.
fairly easy role? And they do a good job with sort of foreshadowing that, I guess, with the narrative, right?
I I feel like that's the biggest drawback for Arabian Nights is that yes, the stories ends up being really neat and really cool and you have a good time there, but there's zero ability to determine, what's what. That you could have the same sort of story with the queen and everything, and she turns to cast a spell at you like it happened in yours. So yeah, you can dispel it, and then obviously you were like, yeah, okay, it's going to be magic, and it was magic. But in Arabian Nights, it'd be like you can dispel it, and then it would ask you, okay, you're dispelling it. Do you have wilderness lore?
Yeah.
What? Why would wilderness look? Well, okay, and then you pass it and it says, yeah, because you grab a rubber tree and put it in the some random stuff, right? And it's like,
Right?
I don't
Yeah.
understand why that just happened, right? Like it doesn't, there's no connection to the skills. So Arabian Nights really just becomes I'm doing this and hopefully good things happen.
Right.
And if it doesn't, it doesn't, right? And there's a bit of like the way the stories. I find this one too with Arthurian Knights. The stories are. It seems very much. I don't know how to explain that. Like the game knows what story you're going to, which it sounds like, yeah, of course it would. How would you not know where to go? Yeah, but like, okay, that Mad Queen would have, story passages, one, two, and three, depending on the choices you might make, right? We're in Arabian Nights you go to a passage and then you roll like a fate die, and then that can affect what passage you read. So you might read
Right.
this passage, or if you roll a negative on the fate die, it's this passage up here, or positive this one down here, right? So it's very there's a lot of randomness for that. And then like your decision tree as well in Arabian Nights, it's a matrix, right? You get this like kind of player board and it'll say what do you want to do with this genie? How do you talk to this queen? Let's go queen again. How do you talk to this queen? Uh okay, we're using matrix G. Excuse me. So matrix G has seduction. It has robbing. It has magic. It has, five, six, seven things. And then you choose, and then that's another, okay, Matrix G here, does this story passage here, roll the fate
Yes.
die here. And it's a very convoluted way of getting to the path. And Arthurian Knights takes that all away and says, no, no, here's the passages. And you might go, okay, well, you get less story. And no, no, that's not the case because the book is still like this. It's still a massive book.
Yeah.
You can play this a ton of times. You'll never get through the entire. Like if this is your only game you play, yeah, sure. I'm sure eventually you'd make it through.
Be a long
Um,
time.
but for the times we come back to games, we can come back to this game 50 times and still have more content in it, right?
Yeah.
And we'll never get to 50. Then we'll be
Well,
100 by the time we're getting to, the 50th play, sort of.
because even if you land in the same spot every game, right?
Mhm.
You're gonna flip that encounter. And it could be the queen again, right? But this time it could be an amorous queen or a shy queen or
Yeah.
a mourning queen. That's going to change it. Or you land on a spot and you flip and it's a location encounter, right? So and then even then it could be the first age, the second age, the third age. So sort of even if the same sort of thing happens, it's going to be very different from game to game to game.
And one of the slight things too that I really like in here, the storybook actually refers to the cards that you pull. Like it talks about the queen or it talks about the jester, right? In Arabian Nights, the it's always referred in the book as other, and then it's up to the player reading the story passage to replace it with whatever was drawn, right? So
Right.
if you draw the queen, the passage says the other looks at you, and the reader has to be like the queen looks at you, right? Which is not a big thing, but it's they were able to do it in Arthurian Knights. So I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a weird thing, I guess. I guess
Well,
it opens it up to having multiple. It doesn't have to be, oh, these are the queen's passages. These are, you know, that could be a queen. Another play, it could be a jester. On another play, it could be a lion talking to you.
right, but then the story, like you said, it's not specific to that character, and
Yeah,
so it's more vague and it's less compelling, right?
yeah, yeah.
Whereas this one, yeah, the stories are quite compelling and rich and humorous and yeah.
I'm curious with this one, like from a skill perspective, because I think there's something like what, like 15 skills, something like that, maybe
In
less.
Arthurian,
In Arthurian, yeah,
12. So
12
there's
skills, yeah.
four categories and there's three in every category.
I want to say in Arabian Nights there's more skills, but it
Yeah.
like even that is done differently. Where in this one it's like you get a skill and then you place it on your player board and then you place it in like when you first get it, it's like +1, and that's like a +1 to the die. And then if you bump it up, it's +2. Now you have a +2 to those kind of skill checks, right? And that's how it's done. In Arabian Nights, you get a skill, and then if you upgrade that skill, it goes to like a you flip the token over and now it's like gold bordered, and you're skilled in that one. And it whenever those sort of quests come up, you basically uh if if that skill comes up, you can take that, and it's usually like automatic success kind of thing on that sort of yeah, I guess using that skill, and it's slightly, once you upgrade those skills, they're slightly better in
Right.
Arabian Nights, whereas you're still rolling dice in Arthurian Nights, but it's different, right? It's a different they changed up the mechanic, I guess, to make it more
Yeah.
streamlined. Yeah,
Yeah.
which is nice, which is nice
The game is way more streamlined. Yeah.
for this type of game when you're trying to just get into to the story and you don't have to deal with the I love Arabian Nights. If I'm in the right mood, this is great. But this one, I feel like you could know the rules, and like we can set it up. I got to refer to the rule book every time we go to play this because there's tricky rules, and I mentioned this the other night. There's a few like weird interaction rules that I have to go over every time because they're complex and weirdly complex for what this kind of game is, right?
Yeah. On the skills, I like that they have fewer skills because I feel like then each one you're more likely to actually use it. And it sucks when you take a skill and maybe build a skill up and you never
Never
get to
comes
use
up.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And in Arabian Nights, I, f- I feel like I get analysis paralysis trying to pick a skill, but it's really a crapshoot whether or not you're ever going to see that skill, right?
Yeah, and you might do something like I mentioned, you might do something thinking, okay, it's going to use a skill, and it just never does,
Yeah.
right? So it's very you really can just grab a skill at random and be like, yeah, this is a skill I get. And who knows? It may come up, it may never come up for the game. So there's really no rhyme or reason to it. Versus this one, you're right, with the smaller subset of only 12 skills, you're often going to see some of those skills come up at least. And then if you double up, and because this one separates the skills by like your martial skills and then it's not
Courtly
diplomatic, courtly skills,
skills.
thank you, that's it, yeah, courtly skills, and then your wilderness skills and that those kind of things. Like if you get a couple in one of those, like I had a couple martial ones, anytime some sort of martial story came along, I was likely covered because it was going to be one of the three, and I had, 2/3 of that going in.
Right.
So, and then sometimes it was like, use one of them actually was use mounted or use sword and shield. And I was like, sweet, I have both. My horse has his head eaten, so I can't use that one. But I have my sword and shield I'll use, right? Poor horse.
Poor horse. Later, you ditched him for a griffin,
Yeah,
and
or tried to,
yeah,
and
yeah,
then rolled poorly. I was so sad about that too, because I like get on this griffin. I'm like, yo, this is gonna be so exciting. And I get on it, and we're flying down a mountain, and I roll poorly, and I fly off the back of it because I
yeah,
can't hold on. Oh no, it's gonna have this cool beast and nothing.
yeah,
But yeah, I mean, story wise, like I hate to spoil stuff, but like there was some really cool stuff. Like I had a lot of encounters where like Mordred's forces were there, and of course I'm joining them because I was going up on the villainy track. And so like yeah, there was some really cool stuff. I did some stuff. I did some magic, and like at one point, Mordred's forces are like looking at me in like awe, and I'm like, yes, I'm this powerful evil wizard, right? And then
yeah,
I became a monarch, and yeah,
yeah,
and I'm looking down on people, and it was fantastic. Yeah, it was. I really created this sort of persona in my head of this, like I was this evil knight that claimed a monarchy and then was
yeah,
like, and then had wizard power and keeping control of, my people with this, there was sure a lot of that was happening in my head, but like, the stuff I was doing, I was, going towards that, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. No, this game's great. I got spoiled actually with narrative games. I think I got Tales of Arthurian Knights, Vantage, and Earthborn Rangers all came in like the same month.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I've played this one solo. I've played it with my family and played it with you a couple of times. Fantastic. It's always a good one to bring out. You got to be in the right mood,
Yeah, yeah,
for
yeah.
just a silly narrative game. But yeah, high recommend for me if that's kind of game that you enjoy.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, yeah, me too. High recommend, especially if you're looking for just a game where you can just relax and just laugh all night kind of thing, right? So this is great.
Yeah. And that wraps up another episode of the Current Plays podcast. Check us out next week on YouTube or your favorite podcast provider. But until then, good gaming and good night.
Good night, folks.